Okay, blessings, everyone. Welcome to the Fatima Hanif Show. So today we have a very special guest, and let me introduce our guest. Milton Bowens, born and raised in Oakland, California, is the fifth son and 10th child of his family, which forms his unique artistic signature, Milton510. His work, which draws inspiration from artistic masters, history, and pop culture, foregrounds issues in perseverance, pride, perspective, and effect. Milton's work has been exhibited and widely collected locally, nationally, and internationally. He has work belonging to the collections of Levi Stadium, the Chase Center, Lambeau Field, the Golden One Center, the Driskell Center, and the California African American Museum in Los Angeles. He is collected by a host of professional athletes, including Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and Charles Barkley, amongst others. From fall 2009 to 2012, Milton's Afro Classical collection, an anthology of painting depicting the importance of jazz, art, and words during the heyday of the Harlem Renaissance Era, was used as part of course studies on the Harlem Renaissance in the Africana Studies and Research Center of Cornell University. His work has been reviewed in numerous publications, including the Sacramento Bee, the San Francisco Chronicle, and the Los Angeles Times, and also has been featured in the Transitional Magazine issue 122, published by Harvard University. Milton's work within the educational system includes lecturing at over 24 universities and college campuses and serving as the artist in residence in several Northern California school districts. Milton strongly believes his art can educate as well as decorate. In 2029, he moved to Alabama to explore opportunities in the art and art education in the South. He has exhibit work at the University of Alabama, Alabama State, and the Carnegie Visual Arts Center, and is included in the art collection of the Tuskegee Airmen National Museum in Tuskegee, Alabama. He is currently Sacramento's Office of Education lead teaching artist, providing instructions in art and entrepreneurship to incarcerated youth. Through SCOE, he also facilitates professional development and continuing education workshops for teachers, administrators, and school staff. Let's welcome Milton Bowens. Hello. I need to get some sounds to start clapping. Good morning. Good morning.
What's going on with you?
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good.
Thank you for being here this morning.
It's always funny when I hear people read my bio, I'll be like, man, I'm old.
No, you really started kind of young. You know that too, right?
Yeah.
You really did. Hold on, I'm sorry. This is me and my technical difficulties. Okay, so tell us who you are. I mean, other than I just read, that was just a smidget, right? Of all the things that you have done. You've been doing so much amazing work, Milton. So much amazing work. And at times, like even when I see your work, I'll be such a proud mama to see all the things that you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I mean, I actually get a kick out of when people send me like a direct message or a DM, and they'll see one of my pieces in a place where like they're not really expecting it. Like, one time I got a DM from a collector of mine in Oakland. They were at the Asian Resource Center in East Oakland, and they took a picture of a painting that I did like back in, I think it was like 2003, but it's still in the center. And so she's like, I didn't know you had work in here, But I just like to tell people, man, I'm just a cat who grew up in Oakland. got in trouble doing art. Art saved my life. It got me into an art school. From there, it got me into an art college. Being hard-headed, I dropped out and joined the military. Then, came back home and still had a love for art. Like I said, I really am just a cat from the town who I wasn't blessed with the gift of rapping like most of my friends. So I knew I wasn't never going to be a rapper or a music producer or anything like that. But art is something that I've always done, and it has always seemed to come to my rescue. Over time and after a while, I just stopped fighting it and just start, putting everything into it. And I've been blessed because, it's taken me some places that I never thought that I would go. It's afforded me the ability to meet individuals that I never thought I would ever meet. And, it's just been a huge, huge gratifying, but very humbling experience to have been able to do some of the things with my art that I've been able to do.
Well, I hope you're majorly proud of yourself. So I know you spoke about some things about yourself as a child, but of course, before the titles, the accolades, the labels, all those things, what did that child dream about?
Ooh, man, really? I dreamt about, being a Major League Baseball player. And then I wanted to be, an NBA star. But in reality, I signed all of my artwork Milton510, and I see you got the Oakland is proud sign up there, and that's actually that mural. I seen that mural go up on the wall. I went out there as a fan and just watched the cats who actually painted it when they were doing it in real time. And this was around the time when the Bay Area hadn't really been introduced to hip hop really yet. We're talking about, the pre-breaking, the pre-Beat Street days, you know what I'm saying? So being able to see that and having a love for art myself, was a huge inspiration. But that's only where I grew up at. That's really only maybe about 6 blocks away from my house, when I was growing up. So, it was like just this real affirming thing that I would see all the time, in the neighborhood. But I signed all of my artwork Milton510, and a lot of people think it's because I was born and raised in Oakland. But in actuality, I'm the 5th boy and the 10th child of my family. So I'm the 5th boy and the 10th kid. I'm the baby of the family. So, when you're the baby of the family, you don't get to make no decisions. I didn't get to choose what we watched on TV. I didn't get to choose what was played on the radio. I didn't get to choose what we had for dinner. So a lot of people have told me, that I meet from different age demographics that I have this old soul, or I engage in conversations and people are shocked, how do you know so much about jazz music or funk and all of these different things? And it's and I'm a huge lover of Motown because my sisters love Motown. And I just sit with them and just listen to them do their little record parties and be playing Motown, all afternoon while they was doing chores. So, you grow up, I grew up with this, what I like looking back on it in hindsight is just this very real, diverse creative palette. But, but I'm also from the town. So I think that I was born with an entrepreneurial spirit. So when you see people like Short, selling tapes, out the trunk of his car, and I ain't no spring chicken. I grew up with these dudes. We're all the same age. It's we're not talking about 10, 20 years apart. We're talking about 1, 6 months, 3 months apart in terms of age of some of the most iconic cats that then came out of the town. Being able to see that in real time, but then just apply it to my industry, to apply it to fine art, was something that I've been, really fortunate to be able to do. I jokingly tell people all of the time when they find out from Oakland, I just be like, yeah, I just slang fine art out of my trunk. Because, I kind of really feel it's just that grassroots spirit. I mean, not to get into the weeds being too technical, but, I gave up gallery representation you know, in the late 90s and the early 2000s, just so I could be more free as an artist, because I didn't want to be pigeonholed and just, do one technique or one style to satisfy a client base or to satisfy a gallery needs. Because in fine art, it's kind of tricky. Like fine art, especially, the fact that I got in trouble doing graffiti, which would land me into an art school. I've been formally trained as an artist since the 7th grade. I went to all art junior high school. Then I, did my freshman year at the California College of Arts and Crafts, which is now closed. But before I joined the military, and then in the military, they would change my job and make me an Army illustrator. So I've been doing art my entire life, but you start to, kind of understand, like, when people see what you do, they kind of want you to stay in one lane. They want to be able to, like, get comfortable with this one approach that you may have, but I just got a versatile spirit. I mean, I like tinkering and dabbling in a lot of different things. So the funny thing is, like, people actually have seen more of my work than they realize. They just probably don't think that I was the one who did it. Like, I have work at institutions that don't look anything alike. And it's funny. I did an exhibition at the Driskell Center, and several of my collectors on the East Coast went to the Driskell Center to see the show. And they walked to the show, and they were identifying pictures, and they were telling me, like, we were in there, people were talking about, "Ooh, I love this artist's works. It's just so raw and honest." And then they'd go stand in front of another work and be like, "Oh my God, this message is so powerful." And they said that they got a real big kick out of telling these people that the same artist did the paintings. Like, there's not two different artists. This is the same cat who did these paintings. And they were blown away because the styles were totally different. But they were sound enough to be in this one institution. And that's what I take pride in the most, is like, I have worked in several different institutions that don't look nothing alike, but they were still done at a level to make it, into the institutional, collection of some of these very prestigious places. So, versatility has already been important for me. And I got to give credit, to the city that I was born and raised in for that. Oakland forces you to be versatile.
It really does. It really does. And you do pencil. You still do your pencil drawing?
I don't do it as much as I used to. I have a bunch of people that request it, but now I'm just kind of in this, I got a couple of projects that I'm really pushing hard. So, like the People's Art Campaign project that I'm doing, trying to elevate, our Black icons, African-American icons, that I think are just so unsung. Like, people don't really know, like, how valuable they are to the culture and to the experience. So in 2019, when me and my wife moved from Sacramento here to Alabama, I had launched the People's Art Campaign right before we moved to Alabama, just kind of as a thank you project. So I could make my work affordable for people, who couldn't collect, big 5 feet by 6 feet canvases. I want to be able to give people an opportunity to get some work, and then it just became this whole different thing because, like I told you, I grew up wanting to, play baseball. So people don't look at, like, if you look behind me and you see the work that's on the wall, like, I love every one of these individuals. You're talking from Bruce Lee to Jack Johnson to Muhammad Ali to Jim Kelly to, James Brown. But the one thing that people don't understand is, like, growing up with the love of baseball, I also loved collecting baseball cards and comic books. So I just thought, well, wouldn't it be interesting if I could make, like, baseball cards of Black folk? Like, if I could do a collection and just elevate some of my favorite icons, but just do them in the same manner that you would collect a baseball card. Now, I didn't want to do them like baseball cards. I just thought that, at the time, that wasn't it. So I wanted to land on a unique approach. So I came up with the style that you see behind me and the style that you actually have as your backdrop. So
Right.
that just, but what I was focusing on is what if I could elevate these individuals kind of in a snapshot, the same way when you get that one baseball card that you've been looking for a long time that was hard to get. Now, all baseball cards don't turn out to be valuable, but they are valuable to the person who collected it. So I tell people a lot of time is like, the people that I'm interested in or that I hold in high esteem may not be people that somebody else hold in high esteem or deem valuable. But it could be that maybe you just don't know exactly what they've accomplished. Maybe you're not familiar with the work that they've been able to do. So it evolved into this project of not just elevating these icons, but more or less kind of helping them share like what their contribution to the Black experiences has been. And I never would have thought in 2019 when I started it would take off the way that it is done. I've actually done over 1,500 original small paintings since 2019. But I'm a painting fanatic. But I'm a painting fanatic. People like, if you look at that math, people be like, how the heck did you do that? And I'll be like, all you got to do is just go look at my social media. You'll see how much I paint. Like, and I have a weird system. Like I might be painting on 25 paintings at one time, you know this very well. In 2003 in Jack London Square, I put up over 100 paintings in one show. That was just one show. And we ain't talking about small paintings. We talking about big 5 foot by 6 foot paintings.
They were huge, right? They were huge. And to be able to see that process.
Exactly. So, and then when you tell people that you did it on your grandmama's floor, they look at you and be like, ain't no way possible.
It's possible. It is definitely possible. And that wasn't no big studio, no big space either, right? Yes, it's definitely possible.
So
that's one thing that I have definitely admired about you, being able to create your own space.
Well, yeah. And like I said again, I have some tremendous, influences that when you see people like, like Tony, when you see people, like the Souls of Mischief, when you see Too Short, when you see Capital Tax, when you see these individuals, and then you can see an individual, you start to see, people who you grew up with, who you admire, not wait for the industry to come to them. They carve their own path. They do things their way. Like that's really inspiring. So I never felt like I had to wait for a gallery to say, "Ooh, we like your work." I've always just took the approach is I love what I do. I believe what I do connects with a certain demographic of people. All I got to do is get it in front of them. So I never really waited. I've always carved out my own spaces to show my work to the people. But that also helped open some doors and allow me to get, solo exhibitions with AMLO, the African American Museum and Library in Oakland. It helped me establish and forge a relationship with the Joyce Gordon Gallery, which is one of Oakland's premier Black exhibition spaces. So, I've been fortunate in those ways to be able to do my own thing, but also still partner with the institutions that I hold dear, that were in the town and basically throughout California.
Who helped inspire that child to be this amazing person that you are? Who as a child, when you were a child, who was that direct person? Not just the influence of music or anything that anybody close to you, any of your siblings or your family members that just helped you inspire to be the person that you are today?
That's a layered and loaded question because I lost my father when I was young, and I think this speaks to the theme of your show. Like, I really didn't know how to deal with that trauma. Like, and it shook me to my core. I'm still affected by it even today. But not knowing how to channel that loss and seeing your whole day-to-day routine and your whole family's life just change overnight. Keep in mind, I was the baby of 10 children. I didn't feel noticed. I felt like nobody was paying attention to me. Everybody was grieving in their own way. So I basically went out and just started doing graffiti. But I was destructive with it. Like, I wasn't quote unquote doing graffiti like most graffiti artists. Like most graffiti artists, they're looking for a certain kind of attention. We're all looking for a certain kind of attention. Graffiti artists want to be just as popular as any advertising, commercial product. Like you want your name up and see it as much as you see a Sprite ad or, a Nike ad up in the community. You want your artwork to be up and revered in the same way. But that wasn't really my focus. My intention was really just, it was almost I was on some Robin Hood shit. I mean, I was vandalizing. I would paint on like Oakland police cars, post office trucks, UPS delivery trucks, DHL, because all of those agencies had slogans. And I would look at their slogan and then I would put my tag behind their slogans. And so I would sit at the bus stop and see how many times I could see the Oakland police driving by saying to protect and serve me. Now, I didn't know at the time that every time I do that, that's a felony offense. especially on federal property and the federal vehicles like the post office trucks and stuff. So, that would hit me like a ton of bricks when I would get caught. But it was almost as if like I was just testing Oakland. I was poking it as much as I could just to see how much they were going to let me get away with until I actually got caught. So it was my way of grieving and seeking some type of validation or attention because I had felt lost in this grieving process. Now, fast forward, I've always dealt with that, but it seems like every time I've fallen into, any of these creative depressions, any of these, social depressions, there's always been a Black male, for the most part, who have stepped up and just kind of like took me under their wing or just spent time with me, and we're talking about people who weren't related to me. Like some of these gentlemen, we had no blood connection. And the one person that I would have to say, there's a few of them, like Robert Collier. When I was real young, getting into the art school, Robert Collier was that role model for me. Then when I would get into the military, it would become a gentleman by the name of Sergeant Lassiter. But then when I got home from the military, hands down, unequivocally, it would be David Bradford. Like I affectionately refer to Mr. Bradford as Yoda. Like he just unlocked some stuff in my head, in the way that I think, the way that I see the community, the way I saw the Black experience. I mean, he is the embodiment of, I'm getting a little choked up because he was just everything to me. And he was no blood relation, but he poured into me. And just the time he would spend with me, and it wasn't even about art. He would like, look, young blood, we could talk about the Warriors, the Raiders, the A's, the Giants. Hell, we could talk about the San Jose Sharks. But until you know how to talk about Black artists the way you talk about white artists, we can't have no conversations about art. So he sent me on this pilgrimage to discover the importance of Black art and artists. And it changed my life.
That's dope, because I was about to ask you, what did that help you unlearn? So clearly it helped you unlearn a lot. Go ahead.
Yeah, man. It was just like, he said that, In hindsight, looking back, and keep in mind, I met him at Laney College. I just enrolled in Laney just so I could get my GI Bill check. I wasn't looking to get my associate degree. I had already had my associate degree when I was in the military. I had picked up an associate degree in graphic arts and illustration. So I was just at Laney just trying to get a check. And then I met him. And it was like, man, I stayed under his tutelage for easily 8 years. He used to have to kick me out. I mean, I just kept going up to the college. I would leave work and go up to the college and just to hang out with him and talk. But he said, the funny thing about the Black experience in its totality is that, and I've actually I did a quote in one of my paintings several years ago that said, white privilege is the majority's history taught as curriculum, and yours is taught as an elective. People never question going into an art history class and only learning about European artists. But European artists are not the people who make up all of art history. But you would think so, based on the way curriculum is taught. And you could sit in any classroom and the entire experience is being taught under, through one lens. And he made me go investigate the gaps in how history is taught. And he said, the Black experience, you might have America's history and it's a bunch of solid bricks. But the Black experience is the mortar that hold all those bricks together. So how can you have a strong brick wall if you only have the bricks? You need the mortar to hold it all together. And he explained to me that is the Black experience. And man, once I investigated that, it was on and popping.
How does that make you, or even the child that you were, right? From your journey as that child, right? Just drawing in, getting in trouble, to now shifting that narrative for yourself, right? Shifting that narrative, even with believing what art was, right? To what it really is, right? Shifting that narrative to what it really is and understanding what it really is. How does that make you feel?
Well, right now, I think I'm in one of the best places that I could be in, honestly. I jokingly say to my wife a lot that, I was in perfect health until I met her. Because the minute I met her, I was diagnosed with severe asthma because she takes my breath away. But understanding, like, she was just something that completed me. Now, she's a creative too. Like, and I think her being a creative, but in addition to being a creative, she's just a phenomenal and brilliant woman, first off. But in addition to that, she's a wonderful creative. Like, she has a wonderful mind. And it's actually opposite of mine. Like, we don't think and create the same way. But that intrigues me in terms of seeing her process and how she gets to storytelling and how that pushes me to want to be a deeper thinker or to, be a little bit more patient, because I've always been a very fast artist, and I think that's just a talent you inherit when you're trying to do graffiti and not get caught. You develop a lot of speed as an artist. So she's been able to help slow me down in my process, a lot. But getting to a direct answer to your question, I just believe that, the transition for me is, I think it's just been one thing. Like, I couldn't change anything, any situation, any sequence that has happened to me in my life, because I think they all happen for a certain reason at a certain point in time. in a certain season for me to get to the clarity that I have now, and I'm just a firm believer that, when we investigate art history and we start to look at the things that make up art history, like if you're looking at the etymology of a word and you look at the word artifact is actually art to fact, with art being the root word. So I'm always puzzled, like, why are we looking for things outside of art to validate the human experience when an artifact has art in the root word, which to me means go investigate the art. The art is going to tell us what we need to know if we're looking at it with fresh eyes. And so for me, the clarity from my journey, of how I used art, got in trouble, tried to run away from it, came back to it, got reawakened with it, to looking at how can I be a steward of this craft today. But that's one of the reasons why I work with incarcerated youth, because I could have been one of them incarcerated youth. So knowing that I was only, one mistake away from their situation, if I didn't have somebody who was able to pour into me, gives me motivation to make sure that these young people get a second chance. And when they get that second chance, I want them to be clear and creatively sound. I want them to be able to critically think. I want them to be able to go through the process of problem solving. Because Fatima, at the end of the day, the clarity that comes with everything that you do, you start to understand that we are just in systems of problem solving. Art is nothing but a problem solving technique. Your healing and wellness are mechanisms of problem solving. Everything we do is just a system or a mechanism of problem solving. And if we can get young people to see how to use their own energy, their own creative intellect to become effective problem solvers, now we're getting closer to a better understanding of humanity and building the communities that we so drastically need.
Thank you for your work that you do with those babies. Not because they need it, right? So that comes to my question, like, what does healing mean to you?
Oh, man. First, healing to me means first loving yourself and being comfortable in your own skin. Like, you can't love anybody else until you love yourself. You can't attempt to assist or help someone else, if you yourself is not in a position to do that, So for me, healing starts with, you personally taking care and repairing your own flaws. Like, nobody's perfect. We can only strive to be, but you got to be able to be comfortable in who you are, confident in who you are, before you're going to be able to go out and try to share something with somebody else, So that, to me, that starts the healing process. Now, once you gain this level of confidence, once you gain this level of self-assurance, once you gain, this understanding of, I know what my limitations are, but I also know that I can push past obstacles, then you can start trying to guide someone else or become a mentor or play a role or offer a suggestion, And like I said, I just kind of feel an obligation because I know there were so many people in my life who did that exact same thing for me. But I just feel like it has to be, it has to be paid forward. You have to pour into somebody. We can't just keep holding all of this information and not share it, because what good does it do? There are too many examples throughout history that would suggest there's no benefit to hanging on to something the greater benefit is to pass something along. And so that's kind of what history has taught me. And the funny thing is, like, when you study art history, you're really studying world history. You know, art history covers every region of the planet. So when you study art history, you're studying world history, actually.
So what do you do now, right? What practices do you do to help you maintain your piece?
What practices did I do now to help me maintain my peace? I would probably say just spending time in the studio. Like, I'm totally at peace when I'm in my studio working on a collection, watching movies, and painting. I love television. Like, my wife tells me I might spend too much time watching television. But I love television and I love movies. Because I think as being an artist is weird, because I think the most powerful form of storytelling visually is motion pictures and television. You know, and it's just probably because of the way society is structured. They have more reach than fine art. Like, I jokingly tell people all of the time, like, when is the last time you've been to a museum? And they'll look. I mean, the average person don't go to museums. Like, that's not on their radar. People will say you have to be, quote unquote, cultured or raised a certain way to go to a museum. And I think everybody should go to museums.
Everybody,
just to be curious. But the average person they don't go to museums. And I jokingly tell people, I was like, I got work in over a half a dozen museums. But more people have seen my work at the Green Bay Packers Stadium, the 49ers Stadium, and the Golden State Warriors Stadium than have seen it in any of these museums. Why? Because more people go to sporting events. So by default, I lean on film and television, because I love storytelling first. I'm a storyteller. And I like to see how other people tell stories. And so I would say, right now, man, I'm just blown away by the creative success of Ryan Coogler. That brother's on a run that is unprecedented, but it's meaningful and impactful. And he's doing it his way. I saw Sinners and immediately knew it was an instant classic. It's just layered in so much rich history. And the funny thing is, some of the most important history be some of the most subtle ways he delivers it. Did you saw the movie Sinners, right?
Yeah.
So the funny thing about this is, the one thing that stands out, we look at the vampire thing, that's crazy on face value to have a vampire movie that's taking place during Jim Crow. That's crazy on face value. But the one important historical thing, well, I shouldn't say it that way. For me, one of the most important historical things that touched me when it came across in the film that I have actually done research on that maybe a lot of people didn't know, or maybe they still don't know because they didn't catch it in the film, is how some plantations were so big during slavery. And then when they would be returned to their southern planters after the Civil War, that these places were so big, so powerful. When we talk about being too big to fail, like the auto industry or the airline industry, you got to save those industries. They cannot fail. America viewed plantations in the same way. These plantations were so massive that they had their own money. They had their own currency. That's crazy. It's crazy. And so, seeing that touched on in a contemporary film, but really, and like I said, if you're not really paying attention, if you're just worried about when is this next vampire going to bite you, you'll miss that key historical moment in the film. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, I watch movies like I'm preparing a thesis. I'm just into them, because then I use I like to look at the way people create. Like the average person, if you like, for people who haven't seen like my work in its totality, I'm really inspired by several artists who just mean a great deal to me. But two of the people who inspire me the most in my actual painting are not even painters. It's Spike Lee and Ken Burns. Ken Burns is a documentary filmmaker, and he does these wonderful documentary films on America and history. And obviously, Spike Lee, you don't really need to, he needs no introduction. But the way he deals with the Black experience, like he's my favorite filmmaker in conjunction with Ken Burns. So, like Ken Burns, when he's doing his documentaries, regardless of the subject matter, when he's dealing with the history, you'll see all of this black and white footage. But then when he's talking to a university professor or a survivor or ancestor or a descendant, it'll be in bright color. And if you look at my paintings, that's exactly the metaphor that I'm using. I'm using a visual metaphor of Ken Burns' documentary. The history is always in the black and white, but the information is always in full color. And then that's when I lean on Spike Lee, the boldness of his films, the costume, the fashion, the design, and then unapologetically the content. Like Spike Lee puts it out there. He don't pull no punches. He's unapologetic in his approach. So that inspired me to be the same way. So I would have to say that, that's this whole gumbo of creativity that I'm dealing with today just comes from a lot of things over time, but it all lands on one particular thing, is being able to pay it forward or pass along everything that I've been able to absorb so somebody else could take it and run with it a little further.
And that's one thing that I absolutely have always loved about your art, and why more people need to learn to go to the museums, right? Because I think people, especially our people in our head, what we have seen, right? What we have seen is that, you go to the museum and you just look, right? You just look and get your perspective, and you just look at the art. But one thing about your art, it has words in it. It has these colors in it. And it helps you understand and dive deeper into the painting. So I wish, I appreciate you for that. You were the first artist, with these words. Like, how are you putting words in your art? What?
Yeah, and when I started, when I made the decision to, become a narrative-based, creator, meaning like words were going to be intentional. Like, I caught flack for it. Like, you might not remember, but the Oakland Tribune, when I did my show in 2003, one, they called me an angry artist, which I didn't think anything in the show was angry. It was just American history from my perspective. But two, the writer said I needed to choose whether I wanted to paint or do poetry. And that's have always stuck with me. I'm like, why do I got to choose? Like, it's all art. So, and the funny thing is, at that time now, I don't want to give away my age, but, we're talking about, this was prior to the internet. Like, people think the internet is hella old, but the internet is not that old. Like, that's just how fast technology takes over our society. Like, I was creating before the internet was created. I have paintings that are older than the internet. And the funny thing is, I look back now and say, text-driven art has become so, mainstream and in most parts accepted now, especially with digital art and now AI. Text-driven art is becoming more and more accepted. But when I was doing text-driven art, it was pushback. Like, institutions and galleries didn't want the words in the art. They said that they were conflicting. They were fighting with one another and all of this crazy stuff. And my whole thing is like, we live in a text-based society. Like, when you watch television, there's a little bar on the bottom of your TV and it's additional information. Nobody even pays attention to that no more. That's just common. You see it on newscasts, you see it on Sports Center. They're going to be giving you updates and stuff like that. You see it in the stock market. You see it everywhere. But then somebody puts words in a painting and everybody wants to freak out and lose their mind. And it's like, no. If I put the Statue of Liberty in a painting by itself, you think you can understand exactly what I'm talking about. You might start thinking about Ellis Island, not knowing that the Statue of Liberty is supposed to be the first national monument to African Americans in slavery. It was gifted to America in 1865. It just wasn't erected till 1867 because they didn't have the money because the war had ended. But that is to solidify America, abolishing slavery. That's the Statue of Liberty. I didn't make it up. That comes from the sculptor himself. The average person don't even know that the Statue of Liberty got a broken chain on her ankle. Now you tell me, what white woman would have a broken chain on her ankle in 1865? Right. She wouldn't. So we know that there's flaws in that history that you need to investigate. But the funny thing is, like, if I put the Statue of Liberty up and then I put text next to it, now you got to think about that statue a little differently. So when I put the Statue of Liberty up and I put Miss Black America next to it, now you got to think about that statue a little differently. So that's the power of weaving text in with imagery. It is going to give you an additional layer of exploration, and then I get to pay tribute to some of my favorite, cats anyway. I get to pay tribute to James Baldwin, Langston Hughes, Ta-Nehisi Coates. I get to weave folks into my work just through their quotes and their writings. Well, I would say that 85% of the stuff that I put in my paintings are original, words from me, but I remix my folks. I'm from the hip hop era. I'm going to remix some folks in my art. So it is what it is.
What are you still learning at this point in your journey?
Oh, you got to be a lifelong learner. You never stop learning. I mean, education is not something that you can finish. You're gonna be learning, till you check up out of here. Like and for me, I just look at every day for a new opportunity to learn something new. Like, I love discovery. Like, that's you asked about what keeps me going. That's part of what keeps me going. I actually love discovery. I love finding out a tidbit of something that I didn't know, or finding out a different angle or perspective on something that I've already researched that sheds new light on something. So, yeah, but you never stop learning.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. So what does community mean to you?
Everything. I mean, I do it for the people, man. I mean, so, and unless you're a close friend of mine or you're within my own personal circle, because I'm a very reserved person. Like, I don't like to hang out with a lot of people. Like, I mean, and like I said, I like really just being in my studio painting. And I'm not an artistic social butterfly. Like, I don't really like to go out to the gallery openings and the shows and stuff like that. Now, I do love engaging the community and talking about my work. But I look at that as a part of what my job is as an artist. Like, what I need to do to help people better understand what I do. But I'm not a huge socialite. Like, I don't really like to float around and hang out with people that much. You're going to get a photo op with me and stuff like that. But, I really just like being to myself or, with my wife, and being creative. So the funny thing is, like, I like to look at this whole thing in a way that if I had my way, I believe that my art should just speak for itself. Now, realistically, I know that's not possible. Like, people want you to be able to, like, communicate and talk about the work and what you do. But I really would just like for people to just focus on the art, The story is not even really about me, and not even about how I got to creating the pieces. Really, it's really just about, what are these pieces doing and what does it represent? Because the artwork is the community. Like, look at all of these paintings. This is not just one painting. These paintings are talking to one another. They're having conversation. They're holding dialogue. I'm hugely inspired by the Black Panthers. Like, I'm fascinated by that organization. And just think about it for a second. We're talking about an organization that started as a neighborhood watch group. All they wanted to do was to protect and secure their community from police brutality. And that little action of courage then would turn into, well, what more can we do for our community? Our community is lacking health care. How can we provide health care? How can we provide nutrition? These kids ain't eating. So when you start to think about how you can go from one little action, we don't want to be brutalized no more by law enforcement. Then that gets elevated to creating clinics, creating, free food programs, creating, early detection on illnesses like sickle cell, like all of these things that are now woven into the government. Now, how crazy is this? You got a government agency that targeted the Panthers with a program, COINTELPRO, to basically dismantle the Panthers. And then that same government turns around and implements their survival programs into policy all over America.
Right.
Make sense. Let that make sense for a minute. But yeah, so, being born in Oakland when I was born, then being able to go away and see the world, and then, reading about the impact your city had on the world, that really opened me up to what community really is, and I have to say, we don't really have communities. We are working to build communities, but to have a community, you got to be able to control every aspect of that community. Not one or two things, but you need to be able to control the entire apparatus of a community. And that's what we are lacking in the Black community.
Yeah. That is so interesting, because I never thought about it. I never thought about it from that standpoint of being able to.
Let me give it to you like this. Think about when we were growing up and look at the people who own homes in West Oakland and East Oakland, who got that home passed down to them from their big mama or their mama or father for whatever reason. And then they sold those homes to go get a newer condo or a newer home out in Pittsburgh or Antioch or Union City, because the town wasn't where they wanted to be. Now, they got this home that their parents had held on to in East Oakland, in West Oakland, and North Oakland for years, and they sold it. When we talk about history and we look at the impact of colonization, people don't never want to connect it to economic development. So when you don't hold on to the resources in your community, like the Panthers were teaching us, when you don't hold on to those resources, colonization returns in the form of investment. Because those same West Oakland neighborhoods, those same North Oakland neighborhoods, those same East Oakland neighborhoods that our homies couldn't wait to get away from, now are populated by people that don't look like me and you when we grew up in Oakland.
Right.
Those neighborhoods are filled with a bunch of people they call East 14th International.
Right.
I'm just saying. But it's always going to be East 14th. If you're a foundational Oaklander, you're not calling international. It's East 14th. It's E14. But that's what we talk about community. Community is more Community is more than buildings and space. It's culture and ownership. And you got to ask yourself,
Right.
how much culture and how much ownership do we actually have in these spaces that we are calling community?
Right.
Now, there's pockets.
That is so true.
There's pockets. And it's not like we haven't done it before, because we have. They established community
many a times.
And then what happens when we do it? Somebody crashed the cookout and burned it all down.
Right.
I just did a painting from my ABCs of Awareness collection. It was on display in Sacramento with Searching for Sanctuary. And this was an exhibition that was on display for an entire year in Sacramento. But there was a painting at the Roberts Family Development Center with the letter P, and P was for protection. And it has Outcast in the painting from the film Idlewild. We talked about my love of film. But the interesting thing is the text that I used in the painting was just talking about how, every time we create a cookout, which is a metaphor for community, every time we create the cookout, every time we create the community, we are often too quick to invite somebody to the cookout that don't belong there. And then they disrupt that cookout from the inside. So we got to be careful of who we keep inviting to our cookouts, because technically we're allowing people to come into our community that don't have our best interest at heart. They're coming in and they are extracting resources and taking them back out and pouring nothing back in, and they're just leaving a shell that they can later come along and consume the entire thing at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Redlining, gentrification, like all of these things are not new. They have just been repackaged. And there's too much historical evidence. There's just too much.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. So,
But but even with, I don't like how you said, the control aspect of it, and having those little pockets, it's just more education needs to come out. It's just like, it's too many of us to not know. You know what I mean? Like, it's way too many of us to not know, to have that structure in order to prosper, to stop thinking that we lack something. And we don't, right? We got so many people and community and skills, and come on.
But what I would say, Fatima, is this. I don't necessarily think it's an educational dilemma. I honestly don't. We're talking about, we come from descendants of people who created businesses and put children through college on elementary school education. Think about Reconstruction, when we didn't have no schools, when HBCUs were just being created. Everybody wasn't afforded the ability to go to school and get an education, but we still had big mamas and pawpaws, building entire families, putting getting their kids in positions so they could go to a university or to a college. And the whole thing was to what? Pay it forward. Get that next generation a little bit more information than you had so you could do a little better, right? That's the lineage we come from. So it's not about our ability to be educated or have knowledge. We have knowledge. We have old wisdom. We have ancestral knowledge. We got wisdom. We got street knowledge. We got game. We got technical knowledge. We got degrees. What we don't have and what we're lacking that really needs to be embraced and built is trust.
I hear you on that. But when I just said education, it wasn't the schools, it wasn't the school. It's sharing, right? It's sharing that information to the kids, to the grandkids. Like, that is lost. And I don't know if it has to do a lot with the literacy rates and the comprehension levels of, the world now. And I'm steering off topic with what we supposed to be doing. But it has to do with that trust. It has to do with that trust, because you're not going to sit there and listen to someone that you don't trust, right? Or do oh, I don't trust you. Why should I have to do that? So, but it's such a disadvantage for me.
Can I hit you with another OG Oakland proverb?
Yes.
When I was growing up, the OG's goal was to lace you with game, not run game on you.
Right.
Today, you got a bunch of people running game on you, and they're not lacing you with game. It's all game, but it ain't the same. Chess and checkers are played on the same board. Do you know which game you're playing?
So true. Huh. Same board, different. So true. So true. So what do you refuse to normalize anymore?
Anti-blackness. I'm a champion and an advocate for smashing anybody who's on some anti-blackness campaign. I have zero tolerance for it. It ain't nothing wrong with being it ain't nothing wrong with being pro-black, because I'm pro-black don't mean I'm anti anything else. But being pro-black, black, I can't speak 5 different languages, but I'm very fluent in picking up on bullshit. And I know racism when I see it. And there's a lot of anti-blackness and there's a lot of racism that's being mainstreamed right now, present day. And we got to have a zero tolerance policy for it. I don't care what they let people get away with on different social media platforms. If you're dealing with me and my platform, and I don't deal with that shit.
Right.
And you're not going to gaslight me into being okay with somebody who's doing it.
Right.
They be playing them, they playing in your face. They being racist, and then they trying to tell you that you're the racist for calling them out on their racism. No, I'm not gonna be gaslit. No. So that's my thing. I have zero tolerance for anti-blackness.
So now we're gonna do rapid fire. So I'm gonna say one word, and then you're gonna say one word.
Okay. That's gonna be hard. But okay.
Okay. No, it's not. Do you know who I'm talking to? I'm talking to Milton Bowens. He got words for days. So, peace is
art.
Joy is
my wife.
Love is
my wife.
Purpose is
community.
Freedom is
black.
Healing is
needed.
Community is
the goal.
Legacy is
510.
I want to speak on something. Your wife. Let me tell y'all, you guys are one of my favorite power couples. And I always say that you guys are such a power couple. And, even though, life, I know Milton for years. And sometimes it hurt my heart because I don't know Daphne that well. But hopefully one day, we gonna come together and I get to, know more about her and everything. But I love you guys' connection. I could just see it, right? I could just see and feel the love. And I just love how y'all work together. It's just so dope to me.
We got to get you to come out there.
But I be seeing y'all. Yes, I am. And I don't have no problem with traveling. I really do. I really do need to come out there. Yes. Thank you. Yes. Okay. Yes, I do need to come out there. But you guys are amazing. I love to see you guys work together. I love to see the collaborations. Man, y'all power couple to me. And I just love it. I just love seeing it.
Really need to come out to Alabama and spend some time with us.
I do. I am.
Because one of the places I would love to take you to for your practice and what you do is Brian Stevenson's Legacy Museum and Lynching Memorial in Montgomery. I'm telling you, Fatima, you're going to be forever changed when you go visit his spaces. because it's not just one place. It's 3 different locations, but they're just connected to one another. You have the Legacy Museum, you have the Lynching Memorial, and you have the Historical Sculpture Garden. But I'm telling you, man, if you talk about getting down into the weeds of our resilience as a people and what we had to endure and overcome, this place is going to change you forever, man. I'm telling you. So anytime you get the calendar open, holler at your boy. We'll meet you in Montgomery and we'll do the whole thing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So what advice would you give to your younger self right now?
Listen to your mama more. That would be my advice.
So at this point in your life, what does freedom look like to you?
Ooh, the ability to not have to compromise and do things on my terms. That's freedom for me. I mean, I'm at a point in my life where, I don't have a problem with telling somebody no, or I'm uncomfortable doing that particular project or piece. Like, that's freedom for me. Being able to call my own shots, being able to create the way I want to create, and not feel like I have to create for a paycheck or create to appease somebody or make them happy. That's just huge for me. That's the definition of freedom for me. I'm at that place in my life where I could just, do things on my terms.
I love that for you. I love that. Isn't it so relaxing?
Yeah, I mean, it really is. Like, the most stressful times for me these days are like right now, as a matter of fact. Like, I have a solo show coming up at the Pascal Hunter Gallery in downtown Oakland in October. And there's so much I want to do for that show, because one, it's going to be my first solo show in Oakland in several years. Like, I haven't had a solo show in Oakland since I think it was Joyce Gordon in like 2018. That's a long time. So this is me getting a chance not to just have a solo show in Oakland, but it's somewhat of a homecoming for me. Most of the time when I come back to California these days, I'm in Sacramento. But this time I'm going to be in the town. I'm going to be downtown Oakland. And I get an opportunity to do this show in October. Now, do you know why October 2026 is so special?
No, please share.
It's the anniversary of the Panther Party. It's the 60th anniversary of the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. They were formed in 1966 in Oakland, just blocks away from where her gallery is. So my show is about the Panthers.
That's about to be dope.
So just knowing that this show is in October, the 60th anniversary of an organization that I just hold in the highest regard, there is none above it. That just has a lot of, I got a little anxiety. There's a little, what I'm saying? There's a little nervousness because it's all, and what's funny is I was looking at a documentary that Spike Lee did on the making of Malcolm X. And he was talking about how everybody in the community, every time him and Denzel would be out while they were shooting the film, people would say to them in public, "Don't mess this up." So I kind of feel, the same way, because it's like, you doing this show, and I chose to do this show as a tribute to the Black Panther Party. It's like, I feel this huge, obligation to make sure I get it right. So that's what's got me right now.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you breathe through all that and know, right? Just know you're gonna.
I got something cooking. I'm gonna catch all y'all off guard. The Bay ain't ready for this one.
Yeah.
we
and that's one thing about trusting us that I love about you trusting yourself and trusting your process, because your work, like, even, hey, surprise, like, it be dope. Yeah,
this one gonna catch a few folks off guard, but man, there's we
Are
do
people
a point
going to be able to find?
Yeah.
Are people going to be able to find the information about your show on your website?
Yeah, we're gonna, you get the exclusive preview. Like nobody knows about this now except for your viewers. Your viewers are the first people to know about what's coming up. But yeah, so at the end of this month, at the beginning of September, we'll start the pre-promotion for the exhibition. Commercial galleries have to be very careful on how they promote their calendar because there's typically a show like every month to every 2 months. So you don't want to step on another show that's happening with information about upcoming shows. So you got to be very careful on how you promote your shows when you're showing with commercial galleries. So, being respectful of that process, we'll start putting the information out like early September, but mid-September is when it'll wrap up and you'll start seeing the heavy promotion to let people know what's really happening and what's going to be going down. But October 2026 is the 60th anniversary of the forming of the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense in West Oakland, 1966. So I'm taking this one serious.
Yes.
Yeah.
So these are all the different websites that you have. And because we didn't even talk about the fashion. So Milton also does these shirts. He has one on himself. So you'll be able to have wearable art, so you have, and with this project, right, with the creativity of your fashions, how do you feel about that? Because you have always been a fashion guy. So when you launched this, how did that make you feel?
Well, I mean, it was something that I had to think about for a while before I finally pulled the trigger on it, because I didn't just want it to come across as you just trying to create some merchandise, because this is not about merchandise. Like these are from the alphabet flashcards that me and my wife created. This happens to be the letter N for Negro baseball, right? You have on one of the People's Art Campaign pieces. It's Harriet Tubman. Don't waste time on somebody Harriet would have left behind. Like I'm trying to send a message in everything that I do. But I do understand, like I said, how television and film has a greater reach than a museum. Fashion is in the same way, has a greater reach than a museum. Because people will see my t-shirt with somebody on BART or somebody, on the subway in New York. They'll see the t-shirt and that'll get them curious. And then when they Google Milton510, the catalog comes up. Everything comes up. So that opens them up to this broader experience. And then hopefully, they find something that they can get with, they navigate with. But the fashion was just an extension of the People's Art Campaign and the alphabet cards to bring awareness to the other stuff that we're trying to do. Because you become a walking billboard. Now,
he has alphabet cards for the children. Well, not only for the children, it's for everybody, right? But parents, it's very important because these things help, further the education as far as them knowing a history, knowing things. So yes.
And you're gonna have to off camera. You're gonna have to text me your current address because I got some new stuff I want to send you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So these are the many different websites that Milton have. And also you can find Milton on all your social media is Milton510, or is it just Instagram?
The majority of it, but okay. Instagram is.
I mean, you can Google him. You can Google his name. It's gonna come up. Okay, just Google him. Okay. You can type in Milton Bowens. It's gonna come up. Milton510. Something is going to come up. Okay. Most definitely.
I tend to pop up on Google searches.
Yes. How dope is that? Like, that's just so dope, man. Like, I'm just so proud of you. Just your work, not locally, nationally, and internationally. Like, you're a Black fine artist. Okay. So that is just so dope. I mean, you're a fine artist, period. Why do we have to, put put the black in front of it. But of course, you know, because we live.
Well,
in
I tell people all of the time, like I've never shied away or walked away from being referred to as a black artist. That's always been a badge of honor to me, because you know, in the late '90s, when I was really, you know, taking inspiration from Mr. Bradford and, you know, starting to get, you know, attention from gallerists and gallery space, everybody always seemed like, you know, they wanted to just always label what I did as black art. Like, I wasn't telling anybody I was making black art. I was making the black experience. I was just doing it creatively. But when you start to study and navigate the industry, like I always tell people, like, you know, you can be a creative, but you might not really understand how the industry of fine art works. There's a fine art industry. So this industry wants to pigeonhole you. This industry wants to, you know, place you in a box or a category so you can be controlled by that narrative. So I figured that if you're going to call me a black artist, then I'm going to give you black art. There ain't going to be no ambiguous nothing. When you see my work, you are going to know it is black art. So I've always embraced that moniker. So, you know, that's a badge of honor for me. You call me a black artist. Yes. If you could call me a double black artist, I'd love it.
Okay, as we come to an end, what is one for the people? Tell them something, I don't know, something inspiring, something for them not to stop whatever they're trying to do.
The one inspirational thing that I share with my students that I would like to share with your audience is I have a saying that I say in certain situations. I tell people and I tell my students, I probably will never change the world, but I can change the world around me. And what I focus on first is protecting the world around me, making sure that my circle is tight, making sure that the people around me are in good mental health, making sure that my loved ones are taken care of. Protecting the world around me first may lead to one day benefiting the entire world, but I can't focus on that. I need to be able to focus on what's around me. So we can't, you might not be able to change the world, but you can change the world around you.
I love that. So true. So thank you for your time, Milton510. And thank you guys for watching.